Hey guys, Sausage here. Released on December 6th, 2023, Seybul Tech is currently sitting at an 88% rating on Steam. Out of all of the liminal space games, Seybul Tech almost feels like it is in a league of its own. It only takes 45 minutes to an hour to complete, yet it packs a lot of atmosphere, tension, and discomfort into this short and sweet experience. You start the game sitting at your desk in an office. After you stand up and explore your surroundings, you notice you are alone. Upon closer inspection, you notice that you are in the year 1996. The calendar states this clearly, but the old, yellowish, off-white box monitors and the floppy disks lying around are the chef's kiss on this masterpiece. If you look closer at the monitor of the computer at your desk, you notice that you need to install something referred to as a gesture assistant program, and that once found and inserted into the computer, you must wait until it is completely installed before continuing. As for the story, that's all you really get before being sent off to explore this liminal office building. My only real issue with the narrative is that unless you listen closely to the ending of the game and really dig for clues, there isn't much narrative. Ultimately, I think the developer left the story up to the player. There is a frame to it all, but the details are vague at best. I really enjoy digging for details and theorizing about games, but I recognize that might not be everyone's cup of tea. If you like games with a fleshed out story, then this element might leave you a little disappointed. Regardless, the game isn't story driven, so you won't feel like you're missing much due to the lack of narrative anyway. Upon completion of the installation of the gesture assistant, you receive a pop-up window stating that you do not have permission to access the program and that you must gain clearance from HR. This is where the game really begins. From here, you explore what I consider 4 different levels: Office number 2, the transition, the apartment, and then hell. You begin in the office, which already feels a bit off as the floor layout is quite strange, not to mention there are no windows. But office level number 2 takes it to the extreme by dramatically increasing the sizes of the rooms, inserting strange inclines and declines, unusual hallways, placing hills and divots in the floor, and including random objects such as a giant moth and a cutout of an anthropomorphistic frog. Upon completion of office number 2, you are taken to the transition, which is just traversing from door to door, moving through various strangely built rooms until you reach the apartment. As it sounds, the apartment is a level with a CRT box television with a weather forecast, a kitchen, and rooms that make the entire apartment feel uncannily large and uncomfortable. From here, you are forced into hell, which is just a handful of rooms with no exit, no way out. The only way out is being forced from one room to the next, and to the next. One big issue I had with the final room of hell was that I was stuck in this room for nearly 10 minutes. I was stuck in a square-shaped room with 2 lights on the ceiling and what I could only assume were 2 windows on the walls, but they were too high for me to be able to jump and look out of. Was I doing something wrong, or was it intentional? While I understand forcing the player to wait to make it feel like you are stuck somewhere outside of time and space in a sort of limbo, the longer I am forced to wait, the more the feeling begins to fade, and I am taken out of the immersion. Eventually, I did escape this room and came face to face with the antagonist of the game. While none of these levels have any traditional jump scares, there are still a few moments here and there that may startle you. Throughout the entire journey, you feel as if there is something behind you, and that is an element that many games struggle to accomplish. Why should the developer include jump scares when they could just as easily make you feel like you're being followed, yet make you feel too scared to turn around and check anyway? Seybul Tech is not your traditional horror game. Seybul Tech is, in every sense of the word, terror. As for the gameplay, it is simple and bare bones. You press E to interact with various items, and its main purpose being to open doors. You press E to interact with your computer, and you press E to eat items such as sushi and donuts, but ultimately, that is it. While this might seem too simple, the point of the game is not to necessarily have mechanics, but rather to be an immersive walking simulator which the developers executed masterfully. You are not expected to carry any items. You are not expected to flip any switches. In terms of any puzzles, all you're expected to do is install the gesture program and then find your way through the labyrinth that is office number 2. The gameplay is simple yet effective. One small issue I do have with the gameplay is in the beginning when installing the gesture assistant. The installation progress seems unnecessarily long. Perhaps the developers made this choice deliberately to give a feeling of liminality. Does the program take 5 minutes to install, or does it just feel that way? It's like staring at the clock, thinking it's been 2 whole hours, but instead it's only been 15 minutes. There is a special type of liminality when you introduce the human concept of time. Fortunately, while you are waiting for this to install, you can walk around the office and find some comical nameplates, eat some sushi and a donut, or even play a minigame on a coworker's computer called Vapor Run 97. While Seybul Tech does not have a soundtrack, the sounds they do include are completely effective in making you, the player, feel uncomfortable. Many liminal space games are just silent, and the only sounds you hear are the sounds of your own footsteps, maybe heavy breathing if you're running, and sounds of items you may interact with, such as opening a door or dropping an item. Silence is an effective tool in helping the player feel immersed in the sense that they are completely alone. However, Seybul Tech introduces certain sounds throughout the game that make you feel isolated, but not necessarily alone, a feeling many of us are far too familiar with. As for the price tag, Seybul Tech is only 99 cents. For a game that will take most people between 45 minutes and an hour to complete, this price tag is completely reasonable at full price. Besides the time spent in the game, the atmosphere is impeccable and something any liminal space connoisseurs should experience. With all of that said, I give Seybul Tech a rating of 9 sausages out of 10. The story is fine, but it feels like you must do your own digging to really get anything out of it. The levels value quality over quantity, and they really immerse you into them as you cannot just speedrun through it all. The atmosphere is not horror, but terror, in making you feel like you aren't safe in a place that doesn't provide you with any reason for activating your fight or flight response. The gameplay is average in that it is simple with not a lot going on, yet not feeling bad or bland as you are too focused on the feeling the game gives rather than thinking about what it might lack. The soundtrack is almost nothing, yet the small sounds the developers did include cause you to question your isolation in the most terrifyingly way possible. The price tag is perfect since making the game free might be a disservice to their own effort and creativity, while knowing that anything more than what they charge could turn some people away. And that's my review of Seybul Tech. If you got this far, consider liking and subscribing, but if not, just know that I appreciate your viewership nonetheless. If you do end up purchasing this game, leave a comment below telling me about your experience. I also stream on Twitch occasionally, so consider following me on that platform as well. I'll leave a link to my Twitch channel in the description below. Anyway, I think I'm going to cut my review here. Mahoney out.